Hello and welcome to the new episode of the BCFC Media Podcast, airing, well, I want to say every week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube. It's been a while though since we've all sat down and discussed anything, mainly probably because there's not actually been anything worth discussing. But with me, I've got Elliot and Dan, and we'll start with the Hull City game, and I'll go to Dan first. Dan, what were your thoughts about the game against Hull?
To be honest, I haven't had, since the injuries and all the suspensions and that, I haven't had much faith in the games anyway. Because literally the bench, like, we've got nothing to bring on. So I wasn't confident for that game, even though they're in poor form. And then that goal, I mean, how bad is that? That's terrible, isn't it? But it sums up the standard of officiating in the league. And I don't want to take it away too much because I don't think we necessarily played too well. And then Gardner lets himself down, knowing how light we are, player-wise, to go and get himself banned for, was it 4 games?
4 games, yeah.
You know, you can't defend that. I mean, I like Gardner, but you just can't defend what he's done there. It's just a moment of stupidity. But yeah, I mean, you can't talk about the whole game without not much else to discuss about it really, but can't talk about that whole game without discussing that goal. I mean, how far out was that ball?
Like, I mean, it would be us that it happened. You never see a goal like that given because it was so clear as day that it was out of play. That, I mean, I think 9 times out of 10, even the Hull players would stop at that point and go, well, that was out. So for that to be allowed is ridiculous. The one thing I do agree with Bowyer on is whether the ball's out of play or not, we can't stop playing. We need to keep doing our job defensively. Yeah. Dean just stood still and watched it. I mean, the other defenders weren't much better. We just assumed that it was going to be noticed. But obviously, when it comes to us, our luck, and the EFL, we shouldn't really assume anything, especially with these officials nowadays. But I mean, Elliot, what were your thoughts on the game? I mean, you predicted 1-1.
Yeah, I think we could have easily got a draw out of it. I see a lot of Hull supporters saying that, you know, the first goal didn't make a lot of difference after the sending off in the second goal. But I think if the officials do their jobs properly and the first goal is ruled out, which it should have been, I don't see Gardner getting sent off. I think that was a frustration tackle from him. You could see the system wasn't working, but, you know, not the system, but the personnel that were in the system where they were deployed. And the way the game was going, you know, we were backs to the wall for the first 40 minutes. It was ridiculous. There was just no out ball, nothing going on at all. And you could tell with another player alongside him that it was just a tackle that it was a frustration tackle. It was a tackle from behind. It was a yellow card nailed on. And then he's done something stupid afterwards. You know, if you're going to do that, headbutt the guy properly, you know, and do it properly. He's now out for 4 games for just putting his head into someone and looking like a complete idiot. But, you know, I don't think we walk away from there without a point. I think if officials do their jobs properly and that first goal ruled out, I don't think we get Gardner sent off, and I think we'd probably get a 1-1 out of it or a 0-0.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the idea that you go to Hull and just roll over and have your tummy tickled is, I don't think any team in the Championship should really be doing that. I mean, he wants to make us hard to beat again. And let's be honest, like you say, that goal shouldn't have stood. It was quite clearly frustration at the way the game was going from Gardner, which is ultimately what's led to him leaving the pitch on a different day. That's the sort of game that at the same time you could see us. I mean, I didn't think we'd get anything from Borough. You know, we walked away with 2-0 win. We got to the half time and capitalised in the second half. I think we could have done the same again at the weekend had we not had these things go against us. But just like, it's blues, isn't it?
But you know, we put, you know, yeah, okay, the decisions have been bad. Again, you know, Reading, you can pinpoint the tackle on Bella on the halfway line. They've then gone on the score, but then from that tackle onwards, the defending is woeful. And then, you know, when that tackle's made, you look at the stills of that you know, of the camera there when they make the tackle, and there's like 5 or 6 of our own players in their half when they break. That shouldn't be happening either. You know, sometimes I think, you know, look, listen, I'm a Bowyer. I'm not a Bowyer out person. I'm a Bowyer in person. I'm fully behind Lee Bowyer. But sometimes when you look at the way that the team manages a game, you think, I struggle to see, you know, at that stage of the game, 1-1, when you can see Reading are on the ascendancy, they had been all second half really. You know, should we have 6 players in their half when the ball's on the halfway line that potentially be lost? Me personally, no, I don't think so. I think, you know, sometimes you've got to be a little bit more. You've got to take what's on offer. I think a point that Reading was on offer, should have taken that. And then again, I just think the setup was completely wrong. Not the setup, sorry, I beg your pardon, but, you know, deploying McGree at right wing back was a big mistake. He got absolutely annihilated on that side, especially for the goal. You know, it was a goal at the end of the day, unfortunately, as much as we dislike it. But, you know, I'm glad that Lee didn't repeat that last night. You know, he put McGree back in the number 10 role, and then he gave one of the young lads a go. You know, at the end of the day, the young lads are there, aren't they? They're in the academy for a reason. You know, they're there. That surely, you know, every other club has to do it. Once they've run out of senior players, you start having to use the younger lads. So, you know, why shouldn't we be doing it?
The thing for me from the Reading game that frustrated me the most was that I think sometimes we go 1-0 up and we don't create many chances anyway, but we make it far too easy for other teams to just be let off the hook. I think sometimes, regardless of how strong our starting 11 is at the time with the injuries and stuff like that, I mean, let's not make no mistake, we are really down at the minute on numbers and a lot of our attacking quality, obviously Chong being out for more than likely the season, and obviously Sanchez, even when he was fit, wasn't getting much of a look in. But I think if we really put our foot on the gas after taking the lead, we could have put another one past Reading. And with a 2-goal lead, you're comfortable. But we make it too easy for other teams to get back into the game. And whether that's the system, whether the players on the pitch just switch off, I think there's obviously something in there that can be worked on. And I know he said last night before the Coventry game, he wants to make us hard to beat again. And you look back to last season when he came in, and that's what he bought. And this year, you're starting to see us show shades of us pre-Bowyer again. And obviously, he's not happy with it. And hopefully, it can get rectified. I don't think we've got to worry and look over our shoulder. We'll get these players back, and we've got a good enough squad to be comfortable come the end of the season. But I just don't want to see the shades of last season, to be honest. I want to forget about it completely.
Yeah, I feel like when we got the clean sheet at the time, so the game's 0-0, we seem to play well defensively until we concede. Because we've kept a good amount of clean sheets this season, but you're looking, I think there's about 10 games that we haven't kept clean sheets in. The defensive record's really bad for like 10 games where you haven't. It seems like once one goes in, we just... And I do agree with you there when you said about 5-6 players in the Reading half. I do think when we're drawing after being 1-0 up, we seem to go a bit gung-ho, don't we? A bit like, we need to score again, and sometimes, you know, just take the point. Like that game, the amount of people missing again, and the first time it was as well, we had young players on the pitch. I felt a nervousness in the team. So I feel like to go and we was a bit too gung-ho at that point, whereas, to be honest, I think we should have just settled for a point to try and get the point in that moment.
I think, obviously going back to, when they equalise, we go gung ho, and they think we've got to go and get the winner now. We was 1-0 up, but it's not acceptable to be drawing from this position. And sometimes, like you say, we just got to accept a point. I think from 1-0 up, you can be smart about it. Reading are obviously going to chase the game. You can be smart with the way you attack and go and get that second goal, rather than, like you say, throwing men up front when it doesn't seem like we've got an idea as to how to really get back in the lead. We're just piling bodies forward and hoping for the best sometimes, because that's just not Bowie's way and our way of playing. We don't go with 5-6 men up the pitch at one time. We're quite measured, and it's it usually becomes our undoing from as soon as the team gets one.
He's got a tough job there at the minute. He's got a very tough job, especially now, because you look at that bench. If our starting 11 isn't doing the job, what do we do? Like, he's just as got as much effect at the minute, Bowie, with the changes he can make, as us fans. Because when we need a goal, sometimes you need like that Sanchez on the bench to go. We need the creative type to come on. It's literally a case of just adding even more strikers onto the pitch and just hoping the ball drops to them.
Yeah,
that's all we've got. I mean, it's tough. It is tough, and as you say, I don't think any of us are Bowyer out at the minute, because I think he's got a very tough job in his hands.
He's got a really tough job, mate. I don't think you'll find many Birmingham fans that don't sympathise with the situation he's in at the minute. What was it the other day? I think we had 12 or 13 fit senior outfield players left after the goalkeepers. It's crazy. Like, we shouldn't be in this position, and it's not like we've got. You look at Reading the other week. They've got like 12, 13, 14 players out. It's crazy. We've got 6 or 7. And we're in this position. Reading were able to field a pretty strong back four. They were able to field, some good youngsters, and a first choice forwards as well. And that's where we're not even at that level. Squad wise, we've got 4 or 5 out. You go back, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever. George Friend wasn't getting in the first 11. We weren't worrying that he was injured. Jordan Graham wasn't getting in the first 11, so we weren't worrying. All of a sudden these players are injured, and we're now worrying. But I mean, for a good reason. I think Jordan Graham's given us that extra dimension on that right side. He's been absolutely superb, and we've completely missed him the last few weeks. It's blatantly showed, and I'm hoping that he's back on Saturday. As far as I know, I think he is.
I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like you say, come the start, if this was the start of the season, if you're talking 3 or 4 games in and you got these injuries and he hasn't had the chance to show what he can bring to the side yet, you're not sitting there thinking, oh no, Jordan Graham's injured. But through the injuries, he's found himself in the team. Obviously, he's picked up an injury, and now all of a sudden you're thinking, oh no, he's injured. But there's a good chance that if he, even with a fully fit squad, he more than merits a place in that starting 11 with the way he performed at the time, and you've seen the list of the 8 players they listed last night after the Ryan Woods card, which we'll come on to shortly. But
sorry to interrupt you, but if you look at that list, Kieran, like, other than obviously Chong's out long term, Chong would probably be starting, wouldn't he, in McGree's position. Other than that, Graham would be starting on the right wing back position, probably the way he's been playing. He's worked his way into that position, and then George Friend on the left side of centre back, the back 3. Other than that, there's not. Gary Gardner, but Gary Gardner's work rate is higher than Woods. That's the only reason he's been in there. Other than that, the team's the same. And if you go through any side in the Championship or Premier League, they've probably got three first teamers out, or what they would consider 3 first. And they adapt. They put players in. They've got squads. They can put players in. I know we're missing Colin and Pedersen, but I don't think Colin gets in ahead of Graham at the minute, and I don't think Pedersen gets in ahead of George Friend. Am I wrong in that thinking?
No, but for me, I don't like the 3 at the back anyway. personally. I mean, I know that's the way we're looking at it. So from that sense, I think you get my preferred three there is Friend, Pedersen, and Sanderson. But then your problem is you take away Roberts' aerial threat and obviously the long throws that we like to utilise. Although we don't actually do anything with them, we like to use them anyway. But I wouldn't play Dean and I wouldn't play Roberts in the back three. I know, like I say, Bowyer likes to have Roberts. Bowyer likes to have Roberts in that back three. So what I think is completely irrelevant. But
I think that's a valid opinion, to be honest. Roberts has his limitations. We all know that. If the ball's on the deck and he can be suspect in the air, he's superb. Dean, well, we've all said it. Okay, obviously we'll get on to last night. I know Dan was there last night, and we'll talk to him about it in a minute. But Dean seems to be. It just seems to have a negative effect on the side. But then it's hard to keep backing up that claim when we get a clean sheet again last night. One of the best home sides in the league at the minute. But yeah, you are right. If we're going into January's not the time to do business anyway. But if we can live through to the end of the season, those are the two positions we're looking at, aren't we? In the summer,
we said on one of the episodes when we was reviewing the transfer window, and obviously we all said the same thing. We wanted another one, maybe even two centre backs if he was going with the three at the back. I just think we might. Well, obviously with the injuries at the minute, we haven't got the depth there, but I don't think we really have the depth there anyway with a fully fit squad if we're going with the three. As the games come thick and fast, you need the rotation. You're relying on players who haven't been good enough for the past few years in Dean and Roberts. And come next summer, I don't know if they'll have a place in that side, full stop. I think he's got the measure of Dean now. The fact that he'd been dropped for a few weeks whilst Friend was fit and playing well, he seems to realise where one of his problems lies. But I've never liked the three at the back for us. I get that, teams that have gone up before, Wolves, they make it work well, and you're talking about one of the best championship sides that there's ever been in Wolves, the year that they went up with Nuno. We just haven't got that quality to do this formation. We haven't got the quality to make it work. With a fully fit squad or not, we cannot do it. I know that Bowyer likes it and he's going to persist with it and the players are buying into it, but for me, it doesn't work. I think we need four at the back, and I think we need, make them a four and make them sit. Don't let them wander off. Don't let Colin and Pedersen wander off up the pitch. Keep them there as a four. You four do your job, but then are you taking away from the attacking side a bit, because he obviously doesn't like playing Bella when it comes to having wingers. He likes to have Bella in the side when he's playing the wing back. But he's been one of the better players. You've got to find a way to fit in the side. But it's for questions for the manager, isn't it?
No, I know what you're saying. Kieran. And I know that you look at the personnel we got. If you look at the personnel right now, what we got, you would say four at the back would be, it would be better for us. And this is the way Lee Bowyer wants to play, and a lot of managers want to play now. It seems to be the sort of in formation. Okay, yes, you look at the top sides like City and Liverpool; they're not playing it, but your sort of more progressive sides in the middle of the table, your sides that are wanting to progress, they seem to be playing it, and it just seems to be, like you say, Wolves did it, Sheffield United did it. They had a lot of quality at centre back. They had overlapping centre backs. I mean, we saw it when Sheffield United came to St Andrews. They had their centre backs literally overlapping. They were coming in. They were making runs into the box. Not even the wing backs were making runs into the box. It was crazy. But yeah, you've got to have the quality to do it. Right now, we don't have the quality to do it. You're absolutely spot on. We don't have Sanderson's superb player. I think we can all agree on that. Like, I think Sanderson, we're not going to be keeping him next season, that's for sure. But Sanderson's brilliant. We need more players like that. Players with a bit of speed, bit of sort of, they want to be in possession of the ball. They know what to do with the ball. They can take care of the ball. Roberts and Dean aren't those types of players, unfortunately. Last night watching Roberts, I'm sure Dan will back me up on this, watching him every time the ball bounced in front of him, he just couldn't wait to just kick it away. You know, there was no sign of him thinking, oh, I'll take this down and I'll have a look for a pass. You know, it was, no, just get rid of it. You're not going to be successful like that. You have to build from the back. So until we can get to a window where we can actually look for better players at centre half or centre back, you know, this system that we're playing isn't going to be successful. But at the moment, it will get us by. You can't chop and change systems. This is the problem, unfortunately, because you're never going to get a philosophy at a football club. He's put this in place, and I hope that we stick with Lee Bowyer, we stick with the system, and then eventually we get the players in that are comfortable playing in it, and then we will go. That's what I'll say.
I think the other difference as well is you look at, like, you know, the mob, like you say, Sheffield United and Wolves, they're the two sides that have done it with extreme success in the Championship. But they have the creative flair going forward as well. We've got a rigid midfield, and like Wolves had wingers in front of the wing backs, and
but Wolves were bankrolled to the Championship, to the Premier League. You know, they were bringing in £16 million signings, you know, like Ruben Neves, but you know, Sheffield United didn't. Sheffield United had, you know, Billy Sharp up front with, McGoldrick. You know, these aren't Premier League players. These are hard workers. They just know what they're doing. They're well drilled. This is all, you know.
You know what they are, though. You know what they are compared to what we've got. A striker that knows where the is. That's what they are.
I agree.
Billy Sharp. I'd take Billy Sharp now alongside Dean.
Absolutely, mate. I would as well. But you know, we've got to work with what we've got. I know, you know. We've just got to get through to the end of the season. I don't know what else to say about it. You know, we could go back to a quarterback. We're still going to be no better off. We're still going to have Dean and Roberts at centre half, or, you know, Roberts and Sanson just basically mopping up for Roberts all the time. So, you know, I think at the moment, until we can get through, like someone said on Twitter the other day, you know, you can't judge a manager till they've had 4 or 5 transfer windows. So we've got to give 4 or 5 transfer windows, haven't we? And go from there.
It'd be nice to have a manager last that long, wouldn't it? As you say, because how many times have we looked at the squad and went, well, Roberts and Dean are from the Harry Redknapp transfer window. You know, we've got players that have all from different managers, and it's not that long ago, but it feels ages ago because of how many managers we've had since. We need someone to have their team.
Yeah. That's what Coventry got at the moment, eh? I don't know. Mark Robbins has been there like 5 years, has he?
Been there since they dropped to League Two.
Really?
Did they appoint him when they were in League Two?
I feel like they did. Yeah, I think so. He's definitely been there a while.
Yeah.
Like, that is his team, isn't it? It's his team. Like,
Everything about that Coventry side is Mark Robbins.
Yeah.
The players, the style, the way they function, everything. And the fans have bought into it as well. You look, you know, we didn't want to give Zola time, obviously, with what happened with Rowett, you know. Then we bought into Harry Redknapp. Look, that was just an absolute crazy spending spree that was never going to go anywhere. There was no real plan. We didn't want Steve Cottrell. Look, we give managers a hard time, but it's because we're passionate about the side, and ultimately we see that it's going nowhere. Whereas now with Bowyer, you've got a manager who was respected as a player, and obviously as a manager, you can see, you know, whether we agree with it or not. We've all said now, you know, this is the style that he wants to implement. It's here to stay, regardless. The personnel might not fit at the time, but as you say, we've got to give him the chance to get these personnel in. There's not much money in the squad, the club, as we found out this transfer window. Well, I say this transfer window like it was yesterday. The window 4 months ago. You know,
not until Lawrence Bassini gets us.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah. No.
I think that's all that needs to be said about that. But
yeah, a bit like the Carson Young era again, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Carson Young weren't that bad.
Oh, I miss Carson.
I tell you what.
Us. He promised. In fact, I'm still waiting for that £40 million transfer budget he promised us when he took over. After.
Yeah, that was a bit naive, wasn't it? Other than the Forest game where we got taken apart 3-0, I haven't worried too much, to be fair. But yeah, he's got it wrong tactically now and again. He's made a couple of strange sort of decisions. But then, like Dan says, he's got nothing to work with at the minute. He's really struggling. It's a hard job for him at the minute. So if we can get through the festive periods, what we got left to the halfway point, 4 games to the halfway point of the season. I'm presuming if he can pick up maybe 5 points between, is it 4? Yeah, he can pick up 5 points to the halfway point of the season. That'll be an improvement on last season. I think last season we got 23 points at the halfway point with Karanka, and we were on the back of 6 home defeats as well. So everything's got to be better than that, hopefully.
Just we are going in spells, aren't we, this season? We'll go a few games with a few wins, and we'll lose a few, win a few, but that gets us through to the end of the season without having to worry about anything, and that's all that matters. Like you say, we're not being picked apart in games. We might be losing games, but we're not being absolutely annihilated like under Karanka. Even Wickham came to our place and outplayed us last season.
Like even that Forest game where we lost 3-0, that first 20-30 minutes, we should have been at least 2-0 up ourselves. So we're actually giving it a go, whereas I remember last season, I know it was different because we wasn't allowed in the stadiums. I was sitting down watching that game going, when are we going to go a goal down?
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, like even last night we're saying how wow Coventry. Well, we haven't even said properly, but look, we've said, we were happy to just lump the ball out with Roberts and with under the cosh a bit, but we had the best chance of the game with Hogan. I think he should have. He hits the target at all. He gets over that. He scores, and I think we see it out. Anyway, but a point's a point. It was a good point. I mean, what did you actually think about the game itself, though?
It was a game again, as I say. I mean, I know you can't just write them off because it sounds like I'm giving an excuse to every player still there. They're still good enough. Well, they should be good enough. It's one way just in my head I look at the bench and go, oh, what can we do if it's 0-0 and we need a goal and it's not working? I don't feel confident until we get a few players back just for depth. So again, I said before the game, I'd happily take a point. It was scrappy. It wasn't nice to watch, but it's a good point away at Coventry. I mean, Coventry are one of the most, I think we're the first team to keep a clean sheet there all season.
Well, they absolutely picked Fulham apart there, didn't they, as well? 4-1 to beat Fulham.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, Coventry fans might disagree with me. Apart from once or twice, I don't remember real key chances from them. So I know there's a penalty and whatever that they thought they should have had, and which is true. I mean, Sanderson was all over him, to be fair. But I don't want to keep going on about refereeing decisions, but again, other people might disagree with me, but it's in the rule. But that is just the bog standard professional foul, taking one for the team and getting back in your position. I mean, the thing that confirms it to me anyway, I knew that it wasn't a red, was when I watched it back when I got home, and the commentator, the pundits, the co-commentator, they can't believe that it was a red card. Like the surprise in the voice that it's a red card tells you all you need to know.
Even Lee Hendry. Lee Hendry didn't think it was. That says it all, doesn't it?
He couldn't wait to get that card out.
Yeah.
It's over.
It even happens to us. And look, let's be honest, we don't often hit people with lightning quick counter attacks like that. So we don't experience it much. But you could put whatever games on tonight. Look, Man City PSG, there'll be double figures for fouls like that.
Yeah, it's just the way football is. It's just being clever. With he's losing ground on him. I need to foul him. You wouldn't do it if you knew you was getting sent would you?
Even with the actual foul, though, there's minimal contact.
Yeah,
he literally only just makes contact with him. It's a foul. I'm not saying it's not. And look, when I watched that, when I seen that happen, I thought, my first thought was, oh no, is that his second yellow? I couldn't remember if he'd been booked beforehand. So I immediately, my brain said, it's a yellow card. No doubt about it. Red card is absolutely, you must be delusional to think that's a red card. I think the only people who think that's a red card is that referee and Mark Robbins.
It was unbelievable as well, though, because, guaranteed, we're not debating whether it's a foul, are we? It's a yellow card. It's
the most obvious yellow card foul you'll ever see, but it's never a red card.
Nothing more than that. And you know what? Yeah, we don't see it too often with our team there, but every time Sahith Chang touched the ball this season, a tackle like that went in on him.
How many of those did you see at Luton?
Exactly. I mean, take your pick. How many times would that ref have sent someone off? The game would have been called off.
Listen, it's not a red card, is it? But what I would say is I would quite like to see some of these cynical fouls. You know, the sort of fouls that break up. You know, say they've got 3-on-1 there, and that as soon as he can lay someone in, and they get cynically fouled like that. Sometimes you think, you know, when teams are breaking and it's done so blatantly, sometimes you think, give them a red card, but it's not in the rules. As you say, it's not in the rules. So why the hell are we getting a red card when every other side that does it gets a yellow card? And it's been pinpointed today on Twitter. Right, the amount of times it's happened to us, especially with Chong, Gardner against Bristol City. I mean, he literally was running at the edge of the box and he could have laid in Hogan and he was taken out. And you think, so like you say, it looked like a referee was running up and we were spoiling his accumulator or something because he couldn't wait to get the card out and send him off. There's just something that stinks about the referees that we're getting at the minute. I'm not happy about it, but, you know, there's nothing more to be said. I'm sure it'll get rescinded and overturned. I'm sure he'll be playing on Saturday. If he doesn't,
agree, by the way. I agree with what you said about sometimes you look at them and go, yeah, do it. And as you say,
it's frustration more than anything, though. It's frustration from the fans and the players. Like, you want a red card because it's frustrating. Like, this is probably our only chance to score for the remainder of the game. You know, we want at half time when we're through on goal, we're breaking. It's our first attack of the match.
But we'd be shocked. We would be shocked if the red card was pulled out on the other team, wouldn't we? Although you
take it, you know. But if someone turns around to you and says, "Do you think that's a red card?" There is not a cat in house chance. You can sit there and say, "Absolutely, that was a red card."
Do you know what? The reason the referee gave it apparently was because it was he felt it was out of control. Okay, well, as Bo said, he was completely in control. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to foul it.
Yeah, how can you be out of control with that? There's only one option you've got.
Yeah, it's not like he's just lunged at him and hopes that he'll catch him. He knew exactly what he was doing as he's hit the deck.
Yeah,
he was doing enough to trip him over.
And the other thing we can all agree on, I'm sure, is if it was stud straight down the back of the calf or down the Achilles, you would say, okay, that's endangering an opponent as well. That's dangerous. He could cause serious injury, give him a red card, but he hasn't. He's given him a swipe. He's clipped. I think it's his studs. I think he's literally clipped his studs.
It's almost heel to studs almost. Yeah. Like I say, the contact
it's a swipe.
Minimal.
It's a swipe. It's not a stud down the back of the calf, which we'd all say, okay, fair enough. That tackle isn't great. You can't be.
No, I think as well. The most annoying thing was when they interviewed. I mean, I very rarely watch interviews after a Blues game on Sky because they just bore me to death. Or you hear the same old stuff over and over. But I thought, no, this is actually, it's got a talking point this time. And they said it to Robbins, and he said, their red card was as obvious as they come.
Oh no!
And it's like, could you imagine if that was a Coventry player that got sent off? He'd be absolutely livid.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, who are you fooling by saying that's as obvious as they come? Because it isn't. It's a yellow card. Like as you say,
you see stamps and 2-footed challenges go and unquestioned, and
I
the
know
yellow card.
people
And,
I know managers are biased. Near enough every manager, but how can you seriously sit there and say that's nailed on? Like, I'll be stunned if that's not rescinded, and then I'll be thinking, what's going on if it isn't?
well, it's like you say, Gardner against Bristol City. I know that's gone round, and the clip of that, like you say, he was
The
took
only
out on the edge
difference
of
is
the
he
box.
didn't necessarily slide, wasn't it? That's
But
the only
it's the
difference.
exact. Look, the slide tackles there, but like Elliot says, there's minimal contact, and it's not. He's not gone stood showing straight into his calf, or he's literally clipped his heel. It's a swing of the foot. It's controlled. It's measured. He knew what he was doing. There is
Let's
no
just
way
say,
you can say
if
he's out
that
of
rule's
control.
change, if that isn't rescinded, I'll expect a rule change to be made as well.
Do you know the only one that I can think of that's similar was that referee? I think it was at Liverpool in the Champions League. It was Liverpool, I think, were breaking, and he's fouled him, and then he's run off, and he's ignored the ref. Do you remember it a couple of weeks ago?
Atletico, yeah, Hermoso or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Felipe.
Yeah, and that was a stud down the back of the Achilles as they were breaking away, and I do you know what I mean? I just sometimes you think, are these referees being influenced by what they're seeing, and then they're going out onto the pitch and they're trying to this is my perfect opportunity to do the exact same thing.
But even then, they said
Mm.
that effectively it was a combination of the foul and the refusal to listen to the red light. He dissent, wasn't it? He ignored him. He ran off. He would not, and that's what the red card. It was a combination of the two. Whereas Ryan Woods, he walked off fully knowing the ref was going to go to these get a card out. It's just the wrong colour for what everyone in the ground thought it would be.
Yeah, like we say, it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen, does it? That's the only time I can think of it has happened. But like you say, it was dissent involved. I'm pretty sure that was the only reason. That was the main reason why he got sent off. But it was quite similar. But
as I say, if that's not rescinded, I expect a rule change to happen as well.
But it's not even like this is something that they're clamping down on. They're meant to be clamping down on shirt pulling in the box, but Sanderson got away with it. Was the ref's view obscured or not? You don't know properly, but that's that's as clear a penalty as they come. Let's be honest. But they're meant to be clamping down on that, and he gets away with it. But they're not meant to be clamping down on this.
What are we saying? VAR? Do we need VAR in the Championship? Do we need
the only thing is the principle of it is right, like VAR, but I don't trust the people controlling it. In the Euros, it's effortless. It was effortless. Literally, it was bang, 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 done.
Because you've got the best of the best referees looking at the. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference. And
it's useless in the Premier League. In the Championship, they'd probably be on the wrong source. They wouldn't know what source it's on the TV.
I mean, you've got a referee who's meant to be. I don't know who he is. The guy that always gives the opinion on the Premier League, like
Peter Walton.
Peter Walton. He's not even got a clue. You listen to some of his opinions and you think, you've not got a clue, mate. And he's meant to be one of the head of the. I don't know what he's got, some sort of advisory role, but he's not got a clue what's going on. And I think it's quite good to see that the best referees are.
You've got VAR,
they're not from our country.
You've got VAR. We're going off on a tangent a little bit because obviously it's not going to affect us, but you've got VAR. Now, for decisions like offside, where they're black and white, you either are or you aren't, as far as I'm concerned. Not to the point where you can be offside by your fingernail. But if you are clearly in an offside position, that goal gets disallowed. That's fine. I agree with that. But everything else that they're watching on VAR in the Premier League is still subjective. You can watch it back for weeks on end. You can see Peter Walton on BT Sport and he's got one opinion, and they go to Dermot Gallagher on Sky Sports the next day. He disagrees with Peter Walton. He thinks it's something else. The referee in the game has a different opinion to them. Obviously it's the referees. It's a referee watching the VAR, so they won't always agree with everyone else either. So if it's a foul, if it's should Ryan Woods have been sent off, you'd like to think they'd all say no. but you're still at the mercy of what this person's opinion is. I don't think it makes much of a difference. And also, let's be honest, VAR for offsides in the Championship, 95% of Scott Hogan's goals would end up being disallowed.
And and as well for the VAR, after the red card's out, how many times do they overturn the referee's decision? It's not often, is it? Because they just go, let's go with what you've said. So they'd probably still sent him off anyway.
The people on
referee.
VAR just want an easy life.
They just want to back the referee.
They want a nice
That's all they
afternoon.
want to do.
Yeah, it's just no. For me, the one thing I've always said is, at the minute, I wouldn't want Blues to get promoted purely because of VAR. I know I would hate it. I'd hate it in the ground. The long delays that there is to it, and I just know we'd get absolutely screwed by it. It'd just be inevitable, wouldn't it?
That's the thing, though, as well. They look at a replay about 10 times. Sometimes it's taking about 3-4 minutes. VAR was brought in for clear and obvious. If it's 4 minutes, you can't be telling me it's clear and obvious. So just go with what was already made. You can
see fouls, and you watch it in slow motion, full speed, and you think that's just a 50-50, full-blooded 50-50 challenge. They watch it in slow motion and they go, that's a red card. And
that's the problem, slow motion. Does not give
slow motion. You slow it down. You can make any foul look bad in slow motion. You really can. It's but you watch something. I think trying to think of one from the other week. Was it the Pogba red card? Maybe I can't remember for sure. It might have been Pogba, and he made a foul. It was a foul and probably a yellow card, but he sent him off. And you watch it in slow motion, you think, oh, that's bad. Watching full speed, you go, nah, that's nothing worse than a 50-50.
Because they're making half a second incident turn into about a 5-second clip where you dissect every move, but you haven't got that time to think like that.
You need to watch it, offsides especially. Right. I mean, God knows what they're playing at, drawing these lines half the time. Right. But there's got to be an element of common sense as well. There's got to be an element of common sense. Like, you cannot. For me, I'd like offside to be: is there clear day between the players? Is there a good gap? If they're in line, but his shoulder is literally leaning like that, not for me. No.
Yeah, what advantage does that give you?
Yeah, what happened to giving the attackers the benefit of the doubt? Because that is what their game is like. You give it to the defenders. Like, and if the ball hits a hand in the run up to a goal, it's disallowed because it's an automatic handball. But if the ball hits a hand from a player blocking a shot, it's not an automatic penalty. So the defenders are getting the benefit of the doubt from something, but the attackers don't get it when it's something that would benefit the attacker, i.e. being offside by the length of his beard. There's too many grey areas for me with VAR.
I agree. I think the rules are strange to me. I watched that Chelsea game last night as well, and I think the ball came off Rudiger's arm, and then Chalobah put the shot in. But they said, it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't purposeful handball. So but when you look at it, as he goes up, he sort of leads a little bit with the shoulder. You can see that he's leading a little. He's trying to chest it, but it comes off his arm. So in my opinion, that's on purpose. It wasn't. They gave the goal. But I know what you mean. I just think the rules need to be a little bit more simplified. If it comes off your arm, regardless of what the situation is, it's handball. For fuck's sake, let's stop pissing about it. And also another thing, I agree with Dan. VAR in the Championship, you've got another poor referee looking at a replay and making up his opinion. It's going to probably be no better than the referee looking at it on the pitch. But I think there needs to be a watered down version of VAR. I think when it comes to maybe potential situations in the box, penalties, what we saw at Hull, ball going out of play, etc. Handballs.
They're the biggest ones, aren't they? Stuff like black and white, that is out of play.
Yeah.
Like,
other things like potential, I don't know, tackles outside the box and stuff like that, leave it up to the interpretation of the referee on the pitch, and just keep the game flowing a little bit more. And like Kieran says, the offside is crazy. You can be offside by toenail. That needs to be a little bit more common sense involved there. You've got a defender and attacker. The attacker's obviously going to lean towards goal. The defender's obviously going to lean a little bit sort of more away from goal. And you're giving shoulders and all sorts. I know you can score with your shoulder, but I think anything from the waist up shouldn't be offside. In my opinion, I think you should be able to lean towards goal, but as long as your feet and your legs and stuff are onside, I don't see the problem really. But yeah, I do think that VAR could benefit us a little bit in the Championship. Let's not beat about the bush, but we'd be a little bit higher up the table by a few more points, wouldn't we, if we had it after the last few weeks.
Especially the whole goal. We'd have kept Ryan Woods on the pitch last night, but we'd have been 1-0 down.
We would have been 1-0 down. Exactly it. Because that Sanderson shirt ball was ridiculous. That would have been given as a penalty. Let's be honest. And I think the Riley McGree one down the other side, the other end. I don't know if Dan had a good view of it, but I think that would have been a soft penalty to have got that.
Yeah.
Did I feel for it at the time?
Soft.
Absolutely. Do I think it was a penalty? No.
After watching it back, it was soft. But because we was at the other end, for us at first, it was hard to make out. Well, it's got to be a foul because he wouldn't miss the ball otherwise.
Yeah,
that was because all we could see was him running towards goal, and then he missed the ball and ended up on the floor. So in our head, it had to be a foul. But looking back, he's went back for the shot, hasn't he? And he's effectively kicked the other player. Don't be wrong. There's plenty of times I've seen something like that given.
Absolutely.
But I would have been very happy with it. Looking back, I'd have been okay. Yeah, that's winning in our favour.
I think the defender's had his arm around him, didn't he, a little bit? Right. He had his arm around him a little bit. And like you say, he's drew his foot back. And it's sort of a 50-50 connection, isn't it, with each other's leg? And to be honest,
But it'd probably be given outside the box, though. That's the only thing, wouldn't it?
I think it would be given outside the box. The initial contact, the start of the foul, probably outside the box. He probably could have easily got a free kick out of it, but I think, the pens like that.
I think the Coventry defender in that situation has been very clever with the contact that he's made with McGree in terms of the slight pulling or the holding of the shirt, and just as McGree's shaping up, he knows McGree's going to hit it. He's positioned himself well in terms of kind of just about getting his body between McGree and the ball at the right time to make it not look like a foul. Which, let's be honest, it marginal. Not a penalty at all. It's very good play. Again, same as the red card. If it's from Coventry's point of view, you'd be absolutely fuming if that penalty was given against us, especially after the Sanderson situation, where there is absolutely no doubt that we got away with it. So
the McGree one is a perfect example of VAR would have went with whatever the ref decided, because it isn't. They probably couldn't pose too big of an argument against either way. But I would say it would be a very soft penalty, to be fair.
Oh yeah, I think we got away with one last night. And
the thing is, we can't even cry about it too much because we got away with it in the first half. So we can't now sit here and cry that we should have had a penalty.
You go back, you go back and you're asking VAR to overturn a tackle on Bella on the halfway line, but you've got, if you don't have 6 or 7 players in there, off, you're not going to concede. Probably not going to concede that goal. It's, it's our own doing, isn't it? We are where we are, I think, and that's my opinion. I think we're only a point off mid-table, so I think that's where we're at. I think we said
that's the thing. That's the thing, yeah. As you say, like the Bella one, there's still a lot to do from our perspective. So, although the referee has made a blunder, they happen all the time. The only one that is absolutely nailed on is that whole one that I can't. Although we should play to the whistle, that shouldn't happen. That decision, like you know what I mean. So that is the only one where you can go. Yeah, there's nothing else that we could really do because it's that close to the goal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they are appalling. We know it, don't they? And they seem to get worse, but we've got to get on with it, haven't we? Because they're not going to get better. We just got to hope that one of these times a team that we're playing gets an email of apology.
I'm sure they do, mate. It happens in every game. The refereeing.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to put a plane against that drab for 90 minutes.
I don't know what to say. Like, apparently the linesman at the whole game was the same guy that gave a goal that was perfectly onside in a Blackpool QPR game, I think. So, it's happening to everyone. I think everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah,
I think there's been a couple of good sentiments there in which to end this episode. And my favourite one being Elliot's line of "We are where we are, and it's our own fault." I like that. So I think that's a good point to leave the episode. We will try and get back before. I mean, how long was it last time? 2 months. So yeah, we'll be back with the season review next time out.
That early? Okay.
Yeah. The 21-22 season review. That's what we're aiming for. No, but also shout out to Elliot's dad as well, who Elliot tells me is an avid watcher of the podcast, although he's probably switched off at this point.
He's the only one who watches it, so fair play to him.
Well,
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, Elliot's dad, if you're still watching at this point of the episode, what are you doing? Thanks for joining me anyway, lads. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Check out the website, btfcmedia.co.uk. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can be bothered, and follow us on the social media platforms at BCFC Media. But until then, speak to you soon.